Welcome to this week's segment of the Rip-Off of the Week. My name is Adam Andrzejewski, and I'm the founder and CEO of OpenTheBooks.com. We've got a great segment this week on the Rip-Off of the Week. We're going to show you how the sausage is made in Washington, D.C. And you know, Open the Books, we're headquartered right here in Illinois. It is the Super Bowl of corruption. So we're deeply steeped in corruption, in waste, fraud, and taxpayer abuse. And last year, on our mission, we filed 40,000 Freedom of Information Act requests. It was the most in American history to open the books, to be able to follow the money so you can hold the political class accountable for tax and spend decisions. And today we're going to do just that. We're going to hold the political class accountable, Republicans and Democrats, for their tax and spend decisions, because remember, it's your money. All right, without further ado, I want to get to my co-host, Tamara Colbert. Tamara?
Hi, Adam. Thanks so much. This is going to be a brick-throwing rip-off of the week for sure, but we're going to get started and talk about, can you tell us exactly what is an earmark? And we really need to know about the 23 new Republican freshmen who jumped on board the bacon train.
So an earmark is part of the culture of corruption in Washington, D.C. It's when the House Speaker is able to dole out favors to get votes on bills. It's legalized corruption. Our former honorary chairman, the late Dr. Tom Coburn, he was the leader in getting the earmark ban instituted in 2011. And again, he partnered across the aisle with his good friend, President Barack Obama. And twice in the State of the Union address in 2011, Obama vowed to veto any bill if it contained an earmark. Fast forward 10 years, and Nancy Pelosi proposes to bring back earmarks. Republicans take a secret vote, and on 102 to 84, they vote to bring back earmarks to join Nancy Pelosi in bringing back the currency of corruption in Congress. And now, Tamara, we know that the Republican caucus was tipped toward earmarks because of 23 newly elected House Republican freshmen that voted to bring back earmarks. And Nancy Pelosi, in the infrastructure bill that was just dropped, it's the first bill legislation with earmarks, she rewarded those 23 newly elected House Republican freshmen with $370 million worth of their proposed earmarks, their member pet projects in their districts.
I only wish they would have been able to meet and sit down and learn from Senator Tom Coburn about the terrible nature of earmarks. So how did you get the names on the earmarks? Share with us that big process that is entailed around earmarks.
Well, this is one example of you can run, but you can't hide. Our auditors at OpenTheBooks.com, if you're on the wrong side of an issue, we are going to track you down. So Nancy Pelosi in the infrastructure bill, she listed on about 60 or 70 pages, 1,400 and roughly 65 of these earmarks that she stuffed in this piece of legislation. They didn't put the member name on the earmark. Separately, there's been, to bring back earmarks, they had to promise transparency of the earmark. That transparency occurs on the member's individual website where they bury it. They bury those earmarks on their websites. So our entire team, we went to the member websites. We downloaded and copied all of those proposed earmarks into an Excel database. So we had everyone's name on the earmarks. Then what we did is in the legislation, we copied them out, we put them into an Excel database, and we did a join. And we joined the member name to the legislative earmark. And that's how we uncovered this story. We're the only ones in the entire country with this story. We're the only ones that could put a name on the proposed earmark that's in the legislation. It was a lot of work, but we nailed it.
We did. I I was part of that. You were working on it. It was literally an entire open the books team effort. And I have to tell you, my eyes were truly opened in learning where to find all that information. So the people watching this, Open the Books is doing extraordinary work for being able to uncover and find the transparency, what's really going on. Do you have any more examples that you can share about these earmarks or the process?
So we're going to put up the link at Forbes so you can actually read the piece. We name all 23 freshman members of Congress. Here's one of them, Jake LaTurner. He's brand new, elected out of Kansas, used to be the Kansas state treasurer. This is a bright guy. He's got a bright future. He ran as a fiscal conservative. By all indications in the state of Kansas, he was a fiscal conservative. Well, guess what? He put forward earmarks. 11 of them were greenlit, of course, by Speaker Pelosi. Anytime that they can pick off a conservative, they'll go the extra mile. She put 11 of his earmarks in the bill. Just one of these earmarks is for $3 million. So you and I, Tamara, can pay for new buses in the city of Topeka.
Unbelievable. So let me ask you this. Does Republican leadership know about this or support this? How does that work?
I want to give you another example of a Republican freshman. And like I say, go to Forbes, see all 23. We detail their names, the amounts that were greenlit by Pelosi that's in the legislation, and what those projects are. You're going to find, these newly elected House freshmen, 23 of them that requested earmarks, greenlit by Pelosi for $370 million of our money on their pet projects. You're going to find us paying for state highways. You're going to find Nancy Mace. She's a newly elected freshman in South Carolina. And Nancy Mace, on just one of her earmarks, she requested $1 billion.
What?
Numerous of these people.
$1 billion, Nancy Mace in South Carolina?
Yes. She requested, I believe it was $35 million. Pelosi didn't greenlit this one. For airport improvements at Hilton Head, South Carolina, the rich vacation destination. That's an outrage. Look, over the years at openthebooks.com, we found $20 million in federal grants flowing into the Shishi private airport on Martha's Vineyard. We thought that was outrageous. You got a Republican freshman, Nancy Mace, requesting $35 million for airport improvements at Hilton Head.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And of course, they don't put this out in a press release. They just quietly take the pork back to their district and try to use that. Okay, so Republican leadership, are they going along with this truly, or is this something like a legislator just tries to sneak it in there?
So you got Republican heads of committees. You've got out in the state of Washington, you've got the female congresswoman out there. I forget her name. She heads up a prominent committee. You've got the Republican from Missouri, the minority leader, the Republican leader on House Transportation and Infrastructure. He's got earmarks in there. Of course, Pelosi takes the committee member where the bill's at and puts his earmarks in the bill. You've got Adam Kinzinger. He's trying to be a rising Republican, the anti-Trumper. He proposed actually $2 million, $1 million each for YMCAs in his district. Pelosi greenlit a bunch of earmarks for him, but not those two, thankfully. You've got a surprising fiscal conservative. We've held this guy out as a champion in the past on different issues. And it's Thomas Massey out of Kentucky. And Massey inexplicably believes in earmarks for transportation. And he's got earmarks in here for millions of dollars for state highways in the state of Kentucky. And we reached out to his spokesman, and his spokesman said, yes, it's true. However, looks like he's got a little bit of religion. He's going to vote against the bill on the floor. This just doesn't cut it. And Massey should rethink his position on earmarks. What it's doing is it's codifying the power of Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. It's giving her the power to pick off Republicans by dangling their pet projects in her legislation to make her massive spending bills bipartisan. That's why we call it the currency of corruption in Congress.
We know that Senator Ernst is a huge champion following in Senator Tom Coburn's footsteps. We need a new champion in the House of Representatives to be blasting earmarks and trying to get rid of those. So what was your biggest surprise? As you're looking through all this, I'd have to say for me, Nancy Mace and $1 billion in earmarks, that's quite a surprise to me. What was your biggest surprise as you're putting this article together for Forbes?
So on the initial snapshot from May, when the earmarks were released, the big surprise was that at that point, 6 out of 7 of the top earmarkers were actually Republicans. In the aggregate, on the first release of these things, Republicans had out earmarked Democrats $4.7 billion to $4.6 billion. Democrats have since caught up, of course, but right out of the chute, right out of the blocks, the Republicans were winning on this disgusting practice of proposing earmarks.
So what are we talking about? 10 billion in earmarks? We know it's 300
now the
proposal million for the Republicans.
The proposal
in total,
proposed earmarks are up north of 20 billion now. They just keep growing, right? In the transportation bill, there's about $5.7 billion worth of earmarks that were greenlit, approved by Pelosi. Republicans have about 1.7 billion of those, and about 4 billion of that is Democrats, of course.
Wow. So what is our Stephen Moore? He's a noted economist, influencer, and of course, anti-earmarks, pro-transparency, good friend of Open the Books. What does he say about this infrastructure compromise bill with Republicans? What are his thoughts?
Steve Moore was really hard on Republicans. He called them, and rightly so, he called them the stupid party. He says there's nothing good in this infrastructure bill, nothing good at all. And he called Republicans stupid for getting a fat, bloated compromise bill with Democrats.
Because it's $1 billion, isn't that? I mean, $1 trillion, correct now?
Yeah, I think it's over $1 trillion. But when you dig into the details on this thing, there's nothing good on the inside of it either. So Stephen Moore was right. Republicans are back to being the stupid party, unfortunately. And when they are, we are not giving them a pass.
No.
At openthebooks.com, we are nonpartisan. If you're lying, cheating, or stealing, if you're fleecing taxpayers, we're going to highlight you like we have today.
So, Adam, we've got a lot of great listeners. There's a huge amount of commentary right now. What can they do? I know sometimes those of us taxpayers, we feel kind of helpless. What can we do to kind of elevate this message? We don't want earmarks anymore.
Well, first of all, pass the piece on social media on Forbes. We need to make this piece go viral. This should be nuclear. This should be nuclear for the base of the Republican Party, that they're newly elected, quote unquote, conservatives. They all ran being fiscal conservatives. They get to Washington, D.C., and it takes Pelosi 4 months to convert the outsiders into Washington, D.C. insiders on the most corrupt thing that they can do, and that's to embrace and then put forward earmarks. So you got to light their phones up, pass our piece, get the details, all the details at Forbes, and make sure that this earmark policy is toxic.
Absolutely. So you can go to openthebooks.com to find the link to this Forbes piece. And then also we're going to post that link to Forbes right here where all of you are having your conversation. We love it. Thank you for joining us for this ripoff of the week. Lots that you can do. Go to openthebooks.com. You can support us. We are 100% funded by normal, average Americans. We take no money. Openthebooks.com. We'll see you next week for another riveting episode of the ripoff of the week. Thanks,
just
Adam.
To clarify, Tamara, we take no money from government. We are entirely privately funded.
100% privately funded. Right. Open the Books takes no money from government.
Right.
Huge in this day and age.
All right. We'll see you back next week.